I was invited to a mixer by a high school classmate, and some of the attendees were fashion models. There, my prideful high school classmate mocked me endlessly, saying, "This guy only graduated high school, and now he's a jobless." The atmosphere at the mixer became very tense. But then, a surprising turn of events occurred thanks to one of the girls. My name is Alex Carter. I'm 28 years old. Today, I was suddenly invited to this mixer by my high school classmate, Mike. Mike was somewhat popular in high school as the vice captain of the soccer team, and he was decent in his studies, so he got into a mid-tier private college. He's quite the clown. However, we were never close friends. When he first contacted me, I was surprised and thought it might be a marketing scheme. "Hey, what have you been up to lately? How's it going? What are you doing now? Since you only graduated high school, are you working your ass off at some crappy company? Or have you dropped out of society and become a shut-in?" He kept talking without giving me a chance to respond. So I finally managed to say, "Well, I'm not exactly a shut-in, but I work from home." Then Mike laughed and said, "Oh, you're one of those trendy work-from-home guys? Bet the pay is lousy, huh? High school grads really get the short end of the stick in life, don't they? Anyway, what do you want? If you don't have a point, I'm hanging up." I was getting annoyed and wanted to end the call with Mike, who hadn't contacted me in years and was now rambling nonsense. Then he said, "What are you talking about? I'm offering you an amazing opportunity. You should be crying tears of joy." "Yeah, and? I'm inviting you to a mixer with my college classmates and colleagues, and they're all gorgeous. How about that? You should be grateful. You'd never get to meet such beauties otherwise. Look, I'm busy with work and not really interested in that kind of thing." "Busy with work? Sure, I get it. When the pay is low, you have to work long hours. But you're almost 30 now. Don't you feel sorry for yourself, crawling at the bottom? Just come this once and experience a glimpse of the glamorous world. It's important to know where you stand." He kept pestering me, and I reluctantly agreed just to end the annoying phone call. I figured it would be quicker to go and get it over with than to keep dealing with him on the phone. So, I ended up going to the mixer Mike had arranged. Among the men in suits and women in dresses, I was dressed in a hoodie and jeans. I had left work for this, and frankly, I didn't care about the mixer at all. But when Mike saw me, he seemed eager to mock me. "Hey, Alex, long time no see. Still the same as ever, huh? You wore that back in high school too, didn't you?" Actually, the hoodie was new from last season, but I didn't bother correcting him. And so, Mike's ridiculous speech and posturing began. When it was time for each person to introduce themselves after the toast, Mike got even more carried away. "Hello, I'm Mike from 5-Star Corporation. I went to a decent college, and I was on the rugby team. My hobby is golf." He used his glass as a microphone and introduced himself loudly like a politician giving a speech. The men cheered, and some of the women looked at him with sparkling eyes. Mike's credentials were certainly impressive. He was an elite and a winner in life. However, I didn't miss the cold look one of the girls was giving him as he boasted with a self-satisfied expression. Sure, I only graduated high school, but at 28, who brags about their college and clubs at a mixer? I wondered if she was thinking the same thing. The introductions continued, and Mike called out, "Next up, David," and started having the guys introduce themselves one by one. At that point, I figured he planned to have me go last as a kind of punchline, but I didn't care as long as it ended soon. The guys followed Mike's lead, stating their company names, colleges, and clubs, creating a freshman mixer-like atmosphere. The girls, on the other hand, listed their professions and all said, "I enjoy cooking," like it was a marriage interview, making the whole scene quite chaotic. The last person left was the most standout among the women, the one who had given Mike that cold look. I was curious about her, not because she was beautiful, but because she had a calm demeanor that set her apart from the others. And now, for the grand finale. Attention, gentlemen, here's today's number one. Mike introduced her in a way that completely shattered the pride of the other women who had tried so hard to make a cute impression. I was shocked by his insensitivity, and the other women's faces darkened instantly. But Mike didn't notice, and I realized what a hopeless guy he was. Still, she introduced herself calmly. "Nice to meet you. I'm Karen Thompson. I'm a fashion model." The guys murmured in awe. I'm not well versed in the rules of gathering people for mixers, but some women looked disheartened. They might have only just met Karen today and weren't friends with her. Of course, the other women who had introduced themselves were also admirable, working hard and being independent, but fashion model had the most impact. The guys' reactions and Mike's following comments destroyed the atmosphere. "All right, gentlemen, she's the highlight of tonight. Let's all do our best to impress her," he said. The women's expressions soured, and the guys felt awkward, while Karen remained expressionless. I was amazed at his insensitivity. Then he said something even worse. "Oh, sorry everyone. I forgot one person. He was so unnoticeable that I almost forgot he was here," he said, looking at me. Everyone turned to me in this uncomfortable silence. "Sorry about that, I'll let him introduce himself, though it's harsh to follow Karen. But he has rights too. By the way, he's a high school graduate and a jobless, so you don't have to listen too closely." Mike laughed loudly. Everyone was frozen by his comment. Mike, whether from excitement or just being oblivious, kept making increasingly disastrous remarks. I wanted to leave this place as soon as possible. I wondered if I even needed to introduce myself, but staying silent felt awkward, so I reluctantly did it. "My name is Alex Carter. I'm not a jobless, but I'm also not a company employee." Mike jumped in. "Not a company employee? What's your deal then? Freelance? Security guard at home? Oh right, not a jobless. So, a security guard? And which university did you attend?" "I didn't go to college." "Oh, everyone, give it up for the one and only high school graduate among us. It's like we've got a joker here." The applause that followed was weak and unenthusiastic. Mike was so caught up in his excitement that he didn't even realize the nonsense he was spewing. No matter how elite he thought he was, he must have been quite stressed or unhappy in his life to feel the need to drag me out and humiliate me like this. My frustration started to turn into pity for him. But then, a single comment changed the atmosphere completely. It was from Karen. "Alex, do you remember me?" "What?" Everyone turned their attention to us. "Alex. Or should I say Mr. Howard?" I was stunned when she used my pen name as a comic artist. "How did you know?" "Wait. Karen? I tried to recall my memories desperately. Karen Thompson. The name sounded familiar. In high school, there was a girl with the same name who was quite chubby, wore thick-rimmed glasses, and had a big braid. We hardly ever talked. I couldn't believe this sophisticated model in front of me was the same person." "Are you that Karen Thompson?" "Yes, sir. Please, don't call me sir. It's too sudden. But you are my teacher. The truth is, I am the globally successful comic artist behind Miracle Feather. Since childhood, I was good at reading and art, but terrible at sports, often mocked by the popular kids like Mike. I spent my time reading books and drawing comic in my notebook. Although my parents were initially dissatisfied, I won an honorable mention in a comic contest during high school, and with continuous efforts, an editor recognized my talent, leading to a 20-page series. To everyone's surprise, it topped reader surveys, moved to the front pages of comic magazines, and my name appeared on the covers. Within a year, it became a massive hit, leading to comic publications, a social phenomenon. Not only has it been turned into a comic book, but it's also been adapted into a movie. Characters have become plush toys and claw machines, and it's even featured on phone cases. Honestly, it has become a national phenomenon. It became a national treasure and was highly praised overseas, with fans in Asia and Europe. The women at the mixer buzzed with excitement upon learning I was that Alex Howard. "No way. Really? Can I get your autograph?" I blushed. "Well, sure. I'll sign something for you," one of the women said. I thought you'd be more arrogant since you're such a famous author. You're really shy. It's cute. Please stop. I signed her notebook, and she excitedly exclaimed, "It's really him. Amazing. By the way, if you don't mind me asking, how much do you make in a year?" "Well, I'm always busy with deadlines, and I leave all the character rights and financial stuff to my employees, so I really don't know. I don't draw a comic for the money," I replied. Next, the men approached me. "Mr. Howard, it's an honor to meet you. I introduced myself earlier, but our company is an advertising agency. Please take my card. Mr. Howard, please accept mine too. Our company runs various fan sites for artists, and it would be an honor to stay in touch," they said, crowding around me. While handling the barrage of business cards, I glanced over at Karen. She was smiling kindly. Suddenly, Mike, who had been silent for a while, shouted out, "Everyone, let's continue the mixer." His face was bright red with anger. Then, inexplicably, he turned to me. "Why didn't you tell us this before? What's your game, Mr. Howard? But in the end, you're just a high school grad and a jobless." Everyone looked at him with disdain. They seemed to wonder, what is he talking about? And no one paid him any attention anymore. Then he yelled, "You Alex, you jerk!" And to everyone's shock, he threw his beer at me. Drunk or not, his face was red as a demon's. Everyone rushed over with napkins, asking, "Mr. Howard, are you okay?" Finally, the group lost their patience. "What's your problem? You've been ruining the atmosphere from the start, and we're tired of putting up with you. Why are you angry? You've been the one insulting everyone all night. This guy is really pathetic," they said, voicing their frustrations. It became clear that everyone had only been tolerating Mike's behavior out of politeness, but they actually despised him. One person finally said, "Let's call it a night." Everyone agreed, saying, "Yeah, let's end this. Mr. Howard, please take my card. Mr. Howard, we're rooting for you," they said as they started to leave. I replied, embarrassed, "Thank you." Mike, with a defiant look, said, "Remember this. Fine, we'll call it a night because I'm in a bad mood. Oh, and by the way, guys pay $100. Ladies, $60. He tried to look cool. "Don't mock me. I'm organizing this, so the guys should pay more. Ladies, be grateful. I'm an elite after all," he added. Everyone looked at him with disdain, and seeing everyone frozen, I couldn't stand it. The staff looked troubled, so I said, "I'll cover the bill," and pulled out my black card. Everyone looked relieved, not only because the situation had finally calmed down, but also because I had taken care of the bill. They all thanked me. Mike, who had been holding 9 of $10 bills, 1 $5 bill, and 5 of $1 coins, stood there in shock. By then, everyone was ignoring him. His business cards were scattered on the table and floor. Some crumpled up and treated like trash. What happened to him after that, I don't know. From what I overheard, it seems Mike couldn't get a girlfriend because of his personality, so he frequently organized mixers. But he failed every time, oblivious to the real cause. He'll undoubtedly keep failing. Thus, the mixer ended. On the way home, Karen and I naturally started walking together. "Ah, you're that Karen. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. It's understandable. I weigh twice as much as I did back then." "What? Twice? No wonder I didn't recognize you." We both laughed. "Yeah, I was nearsighted, only focused on studying, and I had terrible acne." "I see." I thought she was adorable as she shared these memories. I faintly remembered her from back then, and despite her saying she weighed twice as much, she had always been cute to me. But now, standing in front of me was an unbelievably beautiful woman. I didn't know what to say, so I stayed quiet. Since then, I've been relentlessly creating comic. I had no time for romance, constantly chasing weekly deadlines. My work became such a massive hit and a social phenomenon that the 10 years since high school graduation flew by in a blur. I occasionally took walks or went to the gym for light exercise, but I was always working hard. I never had time to develop skills for talking to women or socializing. Even though she was an old classmate, I didn't know what to say, but she took the lead. The other day, I saw Miracle Feather snacks at a supermarket in Singapore on my business trip. Really? That's amazing. You sound like it's someone else's work. Well, I only draw the comic. I'm not involved in those things. Right? The production team handles all that. Exactly. I just focus on paper and pencils every day. A nostalgic and calm atmosphere settled between us. I knew my work had become incredibly popular, but it didn't feel real to me. I was just focused on thinking about what would happen next to my characters, drawing and finishing each chapter day after day. Talking to her made me feel at ease. Then, Karen said something even more heartwarming. Do you know who your very first reader was? Huh? The very first? Yes. The first person to recognize your talent. Oh, the editor? Karen crinkled her beautiful face into a smile. Wrong. It was me. Really? How? You might not remember, but I asked you if I could see what you were drawing after school once. Oh, I think I do remember. I was always curious about you, Alex. You were always drawing something amazing. Your artwork was good, and your unique world was fascinating. I feel embarrassed. I thought you were incredible back then. It happened in a classroom bathed in orange light. I stayed late at school to draw because my parents would tell me to study at home. I remembered a girl approaching me, asking to see my work. I didn't really want to show it, but I didn't have the courage to say no, so I handed it over. She read it seriously and said, "This is really good." Thinking back, I remember feeling anxious about my future, drawing comic instead of studying. Her words back then gave me a lot of courage. The reason I am who I am today is thanks to you, Karen. Not at all. You were always amazing. And honestly, we owe Mike for bringing us back together, don't we? We laughed, realizing the truth. You could have contacted me. Come on. How could I, a chubby girl from back then, suddenly contact the famous Alex Howard? We looked into each other's eyes for the first time. Her eyes sparkled with affection as she gazed at me. Nervously, I reached out and held her hand. Her hand was soft and slender, and she squeezed mine in return. So, maybe, I wasn't sure how to ask her out, lacking experience in romance. But she suggested, "How about a picnic? I can make lunch." That sounds great. Thank you. Her smile reminded me of the one she had when she told me my comic was great back in high school. I held her hand firmly, and as our hands started to get a little sweaty, we continued walking down the night path, slowly filling in the gaps of the years we'd missed.